Hello, I hope you are doing well. My name is Jacqueline Vino from Golosso Learning Solutions, and welcome to the Genuine Learning blog. Today, we're going to cover something that is very exciting, which is a brand new exposure draft. More specifically, we're going to talk about the proposed SSAE on sustainability. Now, this is something that, at least at GLS, we have been following very closely and we have been anxiously awaiting. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. So just to give you some background information on this, the proposed SSAE is called Common Concepts, Examination Engagements, Review Engagements, and Engagements to Report on Sustainability Information. Definitely a bit of a mouthful for sure. In fact, if you actually go onto the AICPA's website and you navigate to the resource download for this exposure draft, you will find that it is absolutely huge. It's actually like 485 or 490 pages in total, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason why is that this is a very, very big project. And within this resource download, there is so much information. There's a lot of contextual information. We have a whole bunch of appendices that they provide. We have the exposure draft itself with all of the proposed changes and what the impact of that's going to be. We have a guide for respondents if you choose to comment on this exposure draft. So there is definitely no shortage of information when it comes to this, even though it is a little bit overwhelming when you first open it. So what we are going to do during this blog is, because we just have limited time, we're just going to really hit the high notes of this exposure draft. However, though, this is an example of a topic that we would dive much deeper into in our recorded content. So just to give you a little bit more context on this exposure draft was actually a joint project. So this was done between the AICPA's Attestation Standards Task Force and also their ESG Task Force as well. So they worked together on this to really work to advance this guidance and make it a lot more practical. So why did they decide to embark on this project? Because of all of the changes that we're seeing in the profession right now. Really, CPAs and practitioners all across the country are being asked to provide services beyond just the audits of financial statements. And they're asked to do these services concerning different evolving areas, things like sustainability, digital assets, cybersecurity, governance, related controls. So in order to meet all of these challenges, the attestation standards really also need to evolve in order to meet these changing demands. In addition to that, there's also been a whole host of regulatory developments that have caused this increase in demand for attestation engagements. So if you're somebody who's watching this right now, and if you've ever taken an ESG course, you know it's a very popular conference topic as well, you know that this is something that has been going on for a number of years now, not only internationally, but we've also had some conversations in the United States around ESG. So some jurisdictions are backing away from it. For example, the SEC, they took a stab at this and then they decided to kind of back away from that. Also, we have different entities and jurisdictions that are kind of softening the requirements over the past couple of years. Things like the European Parliament. However, though, on the other hand, we have some jurisdictions that are kind of going full steam ahead with these ESG requirements. For example, the state of California, they have mandated some form of sustainability reporting, as well as Australia. They also have recently mandated some sustainability reporting as well. So this is an area that is constantly evolving, and there's always interesting changes that are happening. Now, despite all of these, changes in the regulatory landscape, there does continue to be a demand that we're seeing, though, in regards to the assurance of this sustainability information in the United States. And this is something that it might not seem super obvious at first, but this was evidenced by the S&P 500 Sustainability Reporting and Assurance Analysis. And this is something that was updated in June of 2025. And this was issued by the Center for Audit Quality. And basically what they realized in this report is that 362 S&P 500 companies reported on sustainability information back in 2023. And 73% of those companies obtained assurance over certain parts of the sustainability information. So the US public company auditors who are performing these assurance engagements over certain S&P 500 company sustainability metrics, what they're all trying to use is potentially outdated guidance, right? Trying to look at the attestation standards, trying to use that to perform these different assurance engagements. So this was something that, it is getting more popular, and we do have a bit of a demand for this. So that's why they started to take up this project. And this definitely goes without saying as well, but the AICPA has been working on this for years now. They have conducted quite a bit of research on this issue. Again, it's kind of outlined in the 500 or so pages of this exposure draft, but what did they do? So they actually decided to partner with the International Federation of Accountants to conduct a global benchmarking study to get a better feel for what is going on internationally and to also better understand the extent to which companies report and obtain assurance on sustainability disclosures. And in addition to that, and trying to get an understanding of this internationally, they also conducted an additional survey within the United States just to get a pulse on what sustainability assurance practices are looking like here in the United States. So they gathered a lot of information, and then this was officially added to the AICPA's agenda back in 2023. Now, very importantly, what are some of the changes that are in this exposure draft? I personally think it's best to break this down into two parts. So part one is what we're going to cover on this slide right now. What they decided to do first is update the baseline attestation standards. So specifically, they went in and they're proposing some updates to ATC sections 105, 205, and 210. So when the attestation standards were clarified and recodified under SSAE number 18 a couple of years ago, they were designed to be self-containing standards. So the idea was that a practitioner could perform attestation engagements using the attestation standards alone without having to go to the AICPA and refer to other standards, such as the auditing standards or the review standards under STARS. However, though, practice has evolved significantly since SSAE number 18. The range of attestation subject matters has expanded greatly, and we also have new auditing standards that have been issued. So as a result of this, practitioners are often finding themselves referencing other standards for guidance, which was not the original intent, and that is, as a result, creating some diversity in practice. So the proposed revisions focus on high priority updates and other changes needed to support subject matter attestation standards, including emerging areas like sustainability. So overall, kind of the main idea from here is they wanted to really enhance and clarify the baseline attestation standards while trying to promote greater consistency in how attestation engagements are performed, right? So very, very high level, we're going to update what's already there. And then we have part two to this. So in addition to updating the baseline standards, what else did they do? So they decided to develop two new subject matter attestation standards focused on sustainability information in particular. So we have proposed ATC section 325. This addresses examination engagements. And then we have ATC section 330, which addresses review engagements. So in developing these sections, what the AICPA decided to do is they use what's called a building blocks approach almost. So this means that the baseline attestation standards provide the foundation, which are updated per the previous slide. And then these new sections are going to have some incremental requirements that are specific to sustainability engagements. And the board also, in addition to kind of taking this building block approach, they also looked to the international standards as well. And they also consulted the AICPA Sustainability Guide when they were trying to develop these requirements. So they wanted the language and the structure to remain consistent. They wanted to make sure that they were answering all of the right questions. So the goal for this was to include only the requirements that were unique to reporting on sustainability information. So kind of interesting to see like how they, have the basic standards and then trying to build and kind of add more context depending on whether we're doing an examination or a review engagement where this is our subject matter. So overall, the proposal includes 60 incremental requirements in ATC section 325 and 82 incremental requirements in ATC section 330, just to support these emerging engagements. So that was a lot of information for sure, but when will the effective date for this be? So the proposed SSAE would become effective for engagements beginning on or after June 15th of 2029. So do have a little bit of time for this. In addition, though, early implementation would also be permitted. And if you are interested in commenting on this exposure draft, please try to do so by June 30th of 2026. I also wanted to do a quick shout out for some of our upcoming audit staff level training cohorts. We have our 2026 schedule finalized, which we are very excited about. So if you are somebody and you're maybe a manager or a partner and you're watching this blog and you're considering maybe trying out some new training for your staff, I would highly recommend these cohorts. Each cohort is 16 credits of CPE and it's super interactive. There's a lot of mock work papers, a lot of case studies that we use, and we have a pretty great variety of audit topics as well. They're also very highly rated with a near perfect Net Promoter Score, so it's something that we're very proud of at GLS. And that is all we have for today's blog. So if staying current with AICPA requirements and the attestation standards is part of your role, explore how GLS can help you stay ahead of the curve. We have lots of different courses in accounting, auditing, government and nonprofit, A&A if you need to meet your Yellow Book CPA requirements, as well as professional development and leadership courses. So we have a QR code if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. But once again, my name is Jacqueline Vino from Golosso Learning Solutions, and thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you have a great rest of your day.